Okay, so today we're going to go ahead and look at the warm-up. Make sure you're copying this on your paper because even though you're not going to have stamps, you're still going to have to try it out. So here it says, a cookie factory uses 1/6 of a bag of flour in each batch of cookies. The factory used 1/3 of a bag of flour yesterday. How many batches of cookies did the factory make? So basically, we're working with fractions, so it has to be multiplication or division. We need to make sure that we are writing it correctly. So I know that the factory uses 1/6 of a bag to make cookies, but then they use 1/3. So I'm going to go ahead and write it as 1/3 divided by 1/6, and that's what we need to look at. Now remember, with division of fractions, you have to do keep, change, flip. So then I'm going to go ahead and change that. So 1/3 times 6/1, you need to do the reciprocal of the second fraction, and then you multiply it. So 1 times 6 is 6, 3 times 1 is 3, so 6 divided by 3, your answer is going to be 2/1, which is just 2. So that means yesterday they made 2 batches of cookies. So tomorrow, even though I'm not here today, well, I'm here today for second period, not for 7th and 8th. Make sure that you are copying this, and I'll check to see if you wrote it out tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. So today we're going to start ratios. This is the second part of the second unit, but it's the basic chunk of the whole unit. So what you need to do, you really need to have a different colored utensils. So you could use colored pencils, you could use crayons, you could use markers, you could even use different colored pens. So what I need you to do is go ahead and stop the video and find a red, a yellow, a green, and a purple. Now I do have markers right on my desk, but you make sure you need to ask the substitute if you could borrow them. Please do not just go up to the desk and start grabbing the markers. You need the substitute to permission to get them. So make sure you bring it for the rest of the week and also next week, because we're going to use them a lot. So again, you need red, yellow, green, and purple. Okay, now that you have your colored utensils, what I need you to do is go ahead and shade in the ingredients on the top. Now, let me read you the story, and then you can go ahead and do that and stop the video while you're doing that. So Jake's Jamba Juice jugs uses specific parts of each ingredient to make the best-selling juice drinks in Texas. Unfortunately, Jake opened Jake's Jumping Jambalaya joint and left you behind to make the Jamba Juice jugs. Use the recipes below to determine how to make the juice drinks. Jake uses 4 main juice ingredients for his drinks. It has apple, pineapple, kiwi, and grape. So what you need to do is you need to shade that in. So we're going to use red for apple. Oops, let me make this bigger. Red for apple. Then you have yellow for pineapple. You have green for kiwi and purple for grape. So go ahead and stop the video so you could do that and then come back to the video. Okay, now that you have already shaped that in, what we're going to do is we're going to follow the recipes. Now within this cup and the straw, we're going to go ahead and color in squares that have the colors that it pertains to it. So let's do the first one. The first one says 3 parts of grapes to 2 parts apple. So that means I need 3 parts grapes, and that's purple, to 2 parts apple, and that's red. And that's all you need to do. So keep going, do that, and then come back to see if you got the answer correct. Okay, so now we have what we actually basically just represented ratios using the colors and using the parts in the Jamba Juice. So make sure you have it correctly like I did, because you're going to use the same information. So keep your paper on the side to do the next part, the next 2 parts. So go ahead and put it aside. You are going to glue all the things that we shade in or color in in your composition book. So this is the next page you need to have, ways to write a ratio. Now again, you're going to need the same colors that you used before. Now you have it in pictorial. So what I want you to do is take time to go ahead and stop the video and shade in all 4 parts to it. That way we could go ahead and write the rest of it. So right now I need you to color under the pictorial. So just here, you're going to color under the pictorial the different parts. So make sure you are following the parts the way I have them. So the first part, first part will be the grapple. So I'm going to go ahead and write grapple here. Then it's going to be the key pine. After it's going to be the key wapple. And the last one is going to be the grape peony. Grape peewee. That's hard to say. Oops. No, I need that thing. Okay. So what you're going to do, go ahead and shade in the parts like you did. So say for instance, for grapple, you're going to have 3 parts grapes. So I'm going to shade in 3 parts grapes and 2 parts apple. So 3 purple and 2 red. So go ahead and do the rest of them. Stop the video so you can finish the rest of them. Okay, so now that you colored everything in, let's go ahead and write in a statement. So the first statement for a grapple, it's going to be 3 parts. And I'm just going to put 3 grapes. 2 apple. Okay, so what I'm going to do is now I'm going to write it as a ratio. There's 3 ways you could write a ratio. That's in words, with a symbol, and as a fraction. So I'm going to write it out. So since I'm comparing 3 grapes to 2 apples, then I'm going to write it as 3 to 2. The symbol means that you're using a colon. That's a symbol, so that's going to be 3 to 2. And the fraction is going to be the same way we've been reading it, 3 to 2. So that's what we're going to be doing for each one of them. So if you think you got it, go ahead and stop it and then come back and check it. If not, I'm going to continue saying, doing this. So the next one is 1 kiwi and 4 pineapple. So it means I have 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, and 1 over 4. Then we have 2 kiwi and 3 apple. So that's 2 to 3. Oops, that's the word. 2 to 3, and 2 over 3. Then the last one is 4 grape and 1 kiwi. So it's going to be 4 to 1, 4 to 1, and 4 to 1. Okay, so now we know how to write ratios in 3 different ways. So we use words, we use the symbol, or we use fraction. So what I need you to do is put this aside, and then we're going to do the next part. Now, all of this is going to go in your composition book, so please do not lose them. It has to be in your composition book. So on this one, I want you also to take the time to shade in again, grapple, key pine, key wapple, and grape peewee, because we're going to use it again. So go ahead and stop the video and go ahead and shade in all the parts to this. Okay, now that you have everything colored in, what we're going to do, we're going to compare ratios 3 different ways. Remember, ratios are comparison between 2 items. It could be 2 quantities, it could be anything, but it's comparing them. So, for example, we have boys to girls in the classroom, shirts to t-shirts, things like that. Those are comparison of anything. Doors per cabinets, all of that. Those are things, different things that you could use. So here we're just using the juices. So part to part means that you're comparing a part of the juice to another part. So say for instance, this has grape and apple. So I'm going to go ahead and write what we're comparing. So grape to apple. And I'm going to write it as a fraction form. That way you could see it. So grape to apple would be 3 to 2. Now I could also compare it the other way. I could say apple to grape, and that's going to be 2 to 3. So there's two different ways you could compare part to part. Now, part to whole is the same thing, but now you're comparing part of the juice to all the juice. So in this case, I could go ahead and put grape to total, and that's going to be 3 to 5 because there's 5 parts. Or I could say apple to total, and that's going to be 2 to 5. Okay, now, again, we have two ways to compare. On the other one, you have whole to part, which is the same thing. You still have two ways to compare. So whole to part would be total to grape, which is 5 to 3, and total to apple, which is 5 to 2. So if you notice, it's still comparing the same thing, but now they're just switching it around. So make sure you get those confused. So there's three ways we could compare ratios: part to whole, whole to part. So I'm going to continue the video. You're welcome to keep listening, or you could skip to the next part. But for now, I need you to go ahead and complete the rest of the handout. So here, I'm going to go ahead and write them in. You could go ahead and compare it if you already did it yourself. That way you know you did it correctly. So the next one is going to be kiwi to pineapple, which is 1 to 4. Pineapple to kiwi, 4 to 1. Kiwi to total, which is 1 to 5. And pineapple to total, which is 4 to 5. Total to kiwi, which is 5 to 1. And total to pineapple, 5 to 4. So you could stop or go on. So here it's going to be kiwi to apple, which is 2 to 3. Apple to kiwi, which is 3 to 2. Kiwi to total is 2 to 5. And apple to total is 3 to 5. Total to kiwi equals 5 to 2. And total to apple equals 5 to 3. So remember, you do need to compare ratios. You just need to keep them the correct way. So the number needs to represent what you're doing first and then the second one. So you could stop to do the next one and then check your answer. Okay, so here is grape to kiwi is 4 to 1. Kiwi to grape is 1 to 4. Grape to total is 4 to 5. And kiwi to total is 1 to 5. Total to grape, 5 to 4. And grape to, it's still total. Total to kiwi is 5 to 1. Oh, I got mixed up in there a little bit. Okay, so make sure you checked all your answers. Make sure that you have them correct. So now what I need you to do is go ahead and glue in all of these 3 pieces in your composition book. So stop the video, go glue that in, tape it in, and then go ahead and come back and start so you could see what you're doing next. Okay, so here you have 2 handouts that you need to work on. I forgot that they were going to be together for you, so I cut them up, but they still represent 1 handout. So I'm going to fill in the top part, that way you know that what is in those blanks. Okay, and then the rest of it you have to fill it out. Remember, the first part is the one that's asking you to write them in 3 different ways, with the word, with a symbol, with the word as a fraction and a symbol. So make sure you're doing that. And then the second part, which is part 2 whole, is actually writing them. Now don't forget to follow what they're asking. We did all of them in our notes, but when they're asking you for specific ones, like in the first part with the lollipops and the hard candy, then you need to make sure you're writing the ratio, what they're asking you for. And you will be turning this in tomorrow, so make sure that you work them out. If you finish early, staple the 2 papers together and turn them in. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this in. So a ratio is a comparison of 2 quantities. Now, the next part says there are blank clouds and blank stars. That's for your ratios, so make sure you fill that in. On the other one, part 2 whole, what ratios compare? Well, this one's the one we just did in the second part. So you have part to part to whole, and whole to part. And then the ratios can also be compared as whole to whole. So make sure you have all of this written down, because I am going to count off points if you don't write it down. And make sure that you are actually answering and reading what they want. Now on the bottom, it's just asking you, it's giving you an example of how the state of Texas like to trick students. So make sure that you read that part, and then this is the problem you need to do. The rest of it should be simple. So please work quietly. Don't give the substitute a hard time, and do your work. And I'll see you mañana.